Salute to all the brothers worldwide. Whether you're PHA, 3-letter, 4-letter, yeah. Represent.
Right. So I'm gonna be playing this is another artist that reached out to me. This is the magnificent Teddy Cash, Masonic Gang. So get that playing while I get things fired up.
Three pillars, I know my architecture. Ancient knowledge in my heart and soul. It's embedded in me. It's the gift of gold. God's status, Pentecostal. Keep striving till I reach the peak. I'm King Solomon. I built the temple, dedicated to God on another level. Fuck your jealousy, fuck it. You so resentful, asking me for forgiveness. You so repentful to all the third degrees and higher degrees to and from the earth, but they cannot see. Wow, when I'm in the streets, I am a titan. One word out of my mouth, I can slay Goliath. Now it's going down. I'm the final call. I'm a G, that's in God. I'm a N, that's in Allah. Shout outs to the Eastern Stars. Now it's going down. I'm the final call. I'm a G, that's in God. I'm a N, that's in Allah. Shout outs to the Eastern Stars. Compass and square circle is my circumference. I've got my brothers with me. Love and abundance. At times we meet. Let's talk business. Can't say nothing else that'll pique your interest. No cussing. The Bible's open. My eyes open. My heart's open. Little did you know that be the notion. Conversation mighty deep, deeper than the ocean. I represent Gabriel the angel. Lodge of perfection. If you get my angle, number 115. Do you know what it means? I do, but I also know where you keep your key. My Masonic ring. It's the key to life. My ring could bring a nigga from the darkness to the light. No lies. All I speak is truth. I've got the answers. I can show you proof. Now it's going down. I'm the final call. I'm a G, that's in God.
I'm just gonna give it a few minutes and we're gonna go ahead and start. We live on Instagram. We are live on Facebook. We'll play a couple of tracks again. This is the magnificent Teddy Cash Masonic Anthem. This brother will be coming on the Hip Hop and Occult show, so check him out. And yes, the brother is a Mason. Ancient, free, and accepted Mason. So I appreciate him sending that to me. It's the only one I'm going to play today, only because I'm pressed for time. Again, remember some of the other artists we talked about, Monty Mercury, Brother Maine. We got some other artists too that will be coming on the show. All right. So I just wanted to play that real quick. Kind of gonna get into the material. Again, that was the magnificent Teddy Cash Masonic Anthem. Again, I want you guys to support these new artists that are trying to put out good quality music. Okay. Just to run through some quick announcements. I am going to be quick about this today, maybe an hour and a half max. So that's I'm going to kind of get into it. Again, so a lot of these new artists you're going to be hearing me playing here on the YouTube. These are the artists we're going to be bringing on in the show. Our next upcoming show is next Friday night. We'll be talking about the most impactful MCs of the 80s. We will have segues from some of these new artists that most of these artists that are sending me music. For the most part, it's cultural music. Or it's music centered around the occult, the left-hand path, dropping some form of awareness or consciousness. And I got to be careful how I use that word because, that could subdivide into a whole bunch of other categories. But again, if you got some music and you want it showcased, as long as it's, again, doesn't necessarily, your lyrical content don't necessarily have to all be based on the occult or the left-hand path, but we're looking for, music that's creative, that, it's got a certain amount of production and lyrical content in it. We're not looking for booty music or trap music or none of that. It's just not the platform. Not knocking anybody that does that. It's just not the platform that we trying to promote. Okay. So I just want to throw that out there. So don't miss that upcoming show. That's next Friday night. That's going to be on the Primordial Chaos Facebook page live. We'll be playing live music, live DJing. We'll be bringing in some of these new artists. Again, we're doing it on that platform, so we don't have to worry about no copyright nonsense that we got to deal with here on YouTube, because I have the permission. The artists that I do play, I have the permission to use them. I don't want to go through all that nonsense. It's just a headache, big ass headache. All right, so we will be dealing with all those aspects of the culture on those shows on Friday. We're probably going to have to do. We're looking to increase it because of the amount of content we're starting to get. We're looking to probably bump it up to twice a month. We're going to see how this one upcoming Friday night goes, and then we'll see what we do with it after there. All right. Journey of the Black Adept Conference scheduled October 30th to November 1st. Again, just a reminder, as I remind every show up until October. As I said, it is as of now planned to go on until further notice. We do have backup plans in effect if we can't actually hold the event live due to everything that's going on, but we see slowly but surely some things are kind of maneuvering back to some level of normalcy, but we'll have to attack that as we get closer to the event. We won't make an official decision on if we're going to do it in person until we get maybe about 6 weeks out or so. So stay informed on that. That's the best I can tell you for that for now. We're going to wait it out. It's too early to make a decision on that. I did post an upcoming Santa Muerte Holy Death class, which will be on Saturday, June 27th from 3 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Anybody can sign up for that class. It's available for all to sign up. The information is here in the community section on the YouTube page, on the Instagram, on the Facebook. You just send a PayPal. The email is in the advertisement. Same one here in the description box, thecanoom19@gmail.com, which I'll type that in. The class is $55. And when you send your PayPal, please include your email address and your name in the notes, please. Very important. So I can forward you the link for the class, and I can identify who you are and that you paid and all that good stuff. Because sometimes people send me PayPal through somebody else's PayPal, and I can't identify the name. That's why I keep saying that. That happens a lot. Trust me. For whatever reason, it might be a family members or whatever, and they don't include who they are. All I have is the name of the person that sends the PayPal, but they don't include their email and if it's not them, the actual name. So if you're using a relative or a family member or somebody in your house's PayPal, that's why I say put your name and email address in the PayPal notes so I can forward the link to the correct email who paid. Okay, very important. That happens a lot. And that's why you hear me say that every week. Why am I repeating myself every week? Well, that's the reason why. Believe me, it happens a lot more than I talk about. All right. So that class is open for all. I would encourage you guys to check out the Patreon page. A lot of good things going on there. I've posted June's events. We got 2 upcoming events. There's a ritual that I will be doing. And I believe my dates might be fucked up on this. I believe it's the 20th. Yeah, Saturday, June 20th. It's the ritual of Leviathan, the principle of continuity. It's dealing with breaking the ritual that I wrote for this is dealing with breaking linear time. That's all I'm going to talk about. So this is going to be a very interesting ritual. If you are tier 3, 4, and 5 on Patreon, you have access to that ritual. Also on the 6th, we will be doing, there's a class on the 6th. I can't remember what the damn class was now. Oh, on Hecate, the spider goddess. We will talk about how to work with Hecate, the spider goddess, various different methodologies and aspects. We'll get into their history, origins, how we do it, all the other classes. We'll talk about spiritual practices, ritual techniques, etc. We're going to get into all that stuff. Those are the next upcoming events on Patreon. Also, the Tier 5. And in the last 2 weeks, you guys have now really started to sign up in the Red Magus Mentorship Program, which is Tier 5, which I work with you on a weekly basis to develop your path. Also, at a certain point, when you go through that program, depending on what level you get to as far as the work, because it is work. And as I said before, please do not sign up if you are not willing to put in work. It's not a club. It's not about socializing. And there's several of you who are in it already, and some of you might be in this room, and you've probably been in it for about 3 weeks now, going on the third week, and already you see it's work. You talk with me every week, and if you haven't gotten the picture now, it's working. When I say work, it's not just reading a bunch of PDF files or telling you shit that you could do on your own. It's actual work, and your ritual work, research. You know what it is. Again, don't waste my time, and I won't waste your time. If you're not willing to put in the time, effort, energy, and work, it's not the program for you. At some point, that mentorship program will lead to a personal order that's developed out of that called the Order of the Red Dragon. And then we will have rituals and classes only, which is completely separate, which you stay abreast with it through the Patreon, but only Tier 5 members will have access to the Order of the Red Dragon. I will be doing private classes with those people. You will have one-on-one. We're gonna be going through every and anything is the best way I could describe it. So if you're in the program for a while, based on your progress, so it's not time frame. So don't email me. When does the work with the Order of the Red Dragon start? Well, that's up to you. That's by your development. This program is based on your growth and development. There is no time frame. There is no you start at this period, you're done at that period. It's all on you. Your growth and how you absorb and understand this path. That's the key determining factor. All right. So check out the Patreon page if you haven't. I put that in the chat, patreon.com/Beniti. I'm sure you can find some tier level on there, and you won't be disappointed. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button, please. That expands the channel out and reaches more people. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Anytime I do a live video or upload a video, you will get a notification. If you are interested in a spiritual reading, and the spiritual readings that I am focusing on and doing right now are demonic readings through the Lucifer Oracle, working with the Lords of Darkness, or who some know as the Goetia, the 12 Princes of Hell, and the Archdemons, or I do a Santa Muerte Holy Death reading, which deals with the Holy Death and working with the spirits of the dead. Specify which one you would like when you reach out to me for an email if you have a preference. If you want a spiritual consultation, reach out to me, specify I'm interested in a spiritual consultation, which that's basically a one-on-one, whatever you want to talk about. And shout out to my man Tony, who reached out to me about a week or so ago, and I got to hit him back up. We had a nice 2-hour consultation session. I enjoyed the conversation. And he kind of used it, I think, the right way. He even emailed me a bunch of questions prior to the consultation, which I thought was pretty cool, because it showed me he had planned it out, he had thought about it, he had an objective. And I think, to me, that's a good thing to do when you're going to utilize the consultation. And we kind of used it as a roadmap. Now, we kind of bounced around into other things, but at least I had an idea of what was on his mind and what he wanted to discuss. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was a good way to utilize it. But you can utilize it for however you want. That's entirely up to you. Just specify in your email requesting a reading or a consultation with me. Please be clear on the days and times you're available, and most importantly, the time zone that you live in. Okay. I think I covered most of the announcements. I won't waste too much time because I want to kind of get to the material. You see the title. All right. And I made sure I put in there, because unfortunately, and I don't want to say unfortunately, sometimes we need to go back and review this because it still doesn't seep and sink into people's heads. And that's why I made sure the title is clear. Okay, working with the 7 African powers from an occult and left-hand path perspective is entirely different than working it from a traditional perspective. I've adjusted my approach in that over the years. due to a fact coming out of the traditional aspects, years back. I don't mess with it no more. Because what I'm getting ready to talk about and what I've talked about in previous videos is not going to be in line with the traditionalist. I want to make that clear. I've said this for the last several years. Okay, so if you're looking and you think today I'm going to be discussing the traditional methods of this is the wrong video for you. You might even get your feelings hurt, unfortunately. I'm trying to go completely the other way to get you out of that frame of thinking, that frame of mind, and to show you working with the 7 African powers or any other spiritual path or concept is no different. Let's say when we're working with the deific masks of Lucifer, if we're working with Belial, Azazel, any of the demonic spirits, the methodology and the concept is very similar, but obviously the approach is a little bit different because we have to identify what archetypes we are working with. It's still coming from more or less an internal and mental perspective, eliminating all the traditional nonsense that as a religion is required for you to follow. And this is where I would probably have to part ways with the traditionalists, okay? Because this is where they're going to completely disagree. Oh, you can't do that. You're not supposed to say that. That's not the right way to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I know why they're saying that, because this is how they were brought up, raised, taught, because they come through those traditional houses of Ifa or Santeria. Now, having said that, let me put this out there for those that may not know, and those I know already know. I went through all the traditional systems. So I'm coming from both perspectives. So you can't say, Benita, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been initiated. Yes, I have been initiated in Ifa or Santeria. Oshun is my guardian angel that rules the head. Ogun rules the body. I've done various other initiations over the years through the Ifa Santeria system. The hand of a ruler, received my Elekes, my warriors, my Medjay, my twins, you name it, some other shit that I probably left out just for the sake of time. Been scratched in Palo. I've been through all those systems. So I'm speaking from a perspective rather than somebody else who talks out their ass and wants to talk about these traditional systems and just tell you you don't need to be initiated, which is true. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't think they can effectively explain to you why you don't need to be initiated. There's a difference. And if that and if you were explaining, or a lot of these people would explain in the video how they came to that conclusion, or just say, no, I've never been traditionally initiated, but these are the reasons why I say that, based on my own research and experience. I had no problem with that. But there are people out there who just write it off, because it's different when you got somebody, whether it's me or somebody else, who is coming from both sides of the spectrum, can give you a whole different perspective on it, okay? Because I'm coming from both angles. I'm coming from somebody who was in the culture for many years, outgrew it based on my spiritual development. And as I started shifting more towards this path, I just felt a lot of that traditional religious stuff. I didn't need it anymore. I outgrew it. I found out as I grew in spiritual power, knowledge, and wisdom, I started to do work on my own and getting either better results, the same, or even more results. So that's how I came to that conclusion. This is why I was left. So please don't email me, because I get this over the last several years. Can you refer me to somebody to get initiated or crowned or scratched in Palo? Yes, I can, but I wouldn't, because I can't vouch. I wouldn't vouch for somebody just through a phone call or email. You don't do that. Anybody that's been in the culture knows. One, I'm not super active in that community. I stay in touch with my godmother. I stay in touch with certain people in that circle. But unfortunately, they know my position now, and not all agree with it. But there's still that respect there. So I'm not actively involved, still connected, but not actively involved. But anybody knows that's been in this, you don't refer somebody out of the blue like that. It's not how it works, okay? Because when you're going through those things, you need to develop a relationship with somebody in a traditional house so they can gain your trust. You can know then, and most importantly, for you to gain their trust, because there's a lot of bullshit artists out there. I ain't gonna front. There's a lot of bullshit artists out there. So this is not a club. Oh, can you refer me? Yeah, of course I could, but I wouldn't if I don't know you. You would have to spend time with me. I'd have to get to know you on a certain level, because you got to understand, you put your reputation on the line when you refer somebody. So if you refer somebody that's fucked up or something goes haywire, it's almost like in a Masonic lodge. It's the same thing. You got to have two brothers to vouch for you when you fill out or you petition the Masonic lodge and send in your application, okay? You can't just, oh, I want to become a Mason. You're required to go to some what they call open fellowship nights or open dinners, where prior to the lodge meeting, you sit with the brothers for an hour or so, right? Some brothers have to do this for a month or more, right? And fellowship with the brothers. They get to know you. And once they get to know you, see your character, etc., you know, then when they get to a point they feel comfortable, they'll sponsor you on your application. And then obviously, if you've ever been through a Masonic lodge and before the application process, then there's a degree team that's sent to your house to interview you. Okay. And then they need to see how you lived. They talk to your wife. They want to make sure you're an example, etc. It's not, if you do these things right and you've been through legitimate, whether it's a Masonic order, initiated in the spiritual system, it's not a Mickey Mouse club where you pay your fee and you get your little card. You're not going to learn nothing like that. I don't go through any of that shit, because to me, anything getting easy like that ain't worth shit to me anyway, because there's no growth in that. But unfortunately, some people still think this concept of initiation is still got this fucked up concept in their head. And I've always said that's because I think people are more infatuated with getting initiated and not understanding the process of getting initiated. It's two different things. And sometimes when you find out the level of commitment, then people start, I don't know if I want to do that. All right, so I want to get that stuff out of the way, because I will get tons of email. You think I should get initiated in Santeria? I can't tell you that. If you want it, again, as I said many times before in the past, for the personal experience, that's fine. But I have to also put a disclaimer on there. Be prepared to adhere to all the rules of the house that you're in. You know, it's not like when you're on the left-hand path. You have the liberty and freedom to do and utilize it how you see fit. You can't do that when you're in a traditional house. So let me make that clear. You got to be willing to go through the whole process. You got to be willing to be committed and follow their rules. If not, you get your ass kicked out. That's how it works. That's a fact. So once I explain the level of commitment to people, going through when you get crowned, being in the throne room for 7 days, the ceremony, 7 whole days. You can't bathe, feed yourself, or nothing. People come into the throne room. It's like symbolically of being reborn again. You're fed, you're bathed, your hair is combed, you're showered, the whole nine. This is a week-long process. And then the probationary period, depending, for pretty much most major Orishi that you're crowned, you're on a year probation after that. Sometimes you can't have sex for an entire year. Yes, I said sex for an entire year. Sometimes you can't grow your hair. Your head has to be shaved. You have to, in most cases, wear white for the entire year. Sometimes you can't look into a mirror. These are all, it's traditional. I'm not saying I agree with it, because I look back on it now. I know what it symbolizes. I just don't think it was necessary. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just putting out there the requirements if that's in your head. And this is why I put that stuff out there, so you don't email me and ask me this shit. That's why I put it out in the videos. I'm trying to let you know. It's funny how people see these videos, but then they email me about questions that are answers are in the videos. It just shows me or either you didn't watch the whole video, or you heard what you wanted to hear and you didn't hear what you should have heard. So I get the same question. So I'm putting all this out there again to let you know this is what's involved in it. If you're not willing to make that level of commitment, then it's not for you. And I'm here to show you today that you can still work with those spirits, okay? But do it from an occult left-hand path. That's from a higher level, okay? Minus, again, all the traditional nonsense, all of the so-called traditional requirements they'll claim that you must do in order to connect, which is not true, okay? All right, let's start briefly with who are the 7 African powers, if you're not familiar. Okay, it goes back to the Ifa spiritual path. I don't want to say Santeria, because Santeria comes from the Ifa spiritual path, which is watered down. A good small pamphlet. This is a book I've had for a long time, a super long time. Now, mind you, before I put this book out there as a reference, it does come from a Santeria aspect. It is influenced by Catholicism, but I'm going to show you how I work with this now, minus all of the Catholic. I'm going to give you an examples, and I'm going to show you. So this is the book. It's crazy because the author's name, and they've reprinted this a couple of times. This one, I believe, came out in 2018. The latest. The author's name is simply PD. It's the 7 African Powers. All right. It breaks down each one. It gives you, there's rituals, spiritual baths you can create in the end. I'm going to show you how I adjusted that over the years, how I don't utilize it. There's a lot of things I've changed in this book. All right. The 7 African powers, who do they consist of? Okay. This is important. We need to understand this. Okay. You have Shango, Oshun, Yemaya, Obatala, Elegua, Ogun, Orunmila, as you say, and then Olofi. Now, when we remove the religious, the Olofi, if you see there, and a lot of you have probably seen this image. I even have this pendant that I've had for years. I just figured same thing you see on there. I just figured I'd wear it for the video just because we're talking about it. So let's tap into the energy. Remember, we deal with imagery and symbols project consciousness. All right. If you see there, you see the rooster. That's a Luciferian symbol. You see the skull on the floor. You see the serpent. There's a lot of influence of African witchcraft and sorcery in this practice. And this is how I utilize it. There is a connection with Santa Muerte and the 7-colored aspect of the Holy Death, which I'm not going to get too much into that today. That will be a part of the class that I do on the 27th. I'm going to connect all that, because there is a connection and origin with that. The more indigenous aspect of the 7 African powers going back and its connection to the Holy Death, you can find that in a lot of spiritual systems going back to Africa prior to the influence of Catholicism, just like with this practice, 7 African powers. Now, I found, because these are the main, we know there's many Orishi in this pantheon, but these are your core Orishi, and that's why they're called the 7 African powers, right? I found by coming up with simple spiritual practices and not having to deal with all this intricate, multi-layered shit, is a very simple and effective way to work with them, removing all that traditional stuff. But I point out the Olofi concept, and some people confuse Olofi with Orunmila because they don't understand the spiritual path. That's the power and the energy. That would be likened to the creative force, the God force. We can really synchronize that to Lucifer on the draconian path, because the energy is the very same. Everything flows from what they say Olofi, right? Orunmila would be a representation. Now you see they use the symbol of Christ being removed from the cross. It's representative of Christ on earth, or God on earth, right? Symbolically. Then when we look at the major Orishis in the pantheon, which I'm about to go through, they all tie in to a certain aspect of nature, just like in most other pantheons. Same thing when you're dealing with the Neteru in ancient Egypt. It's the same thing. So we're going to work with these, and I'm going to explain to you, you don't utilize these any different that you would any other archetype on the left-hand path. You can create the same rituals, invocations, and meditations. Now, again, this is not going to be aligned traditionally. So, hold on. Obsidian Sun. I saw it out the corner of my eye. Yes, you can. Now, the traditionalists will tell you, no, you can't. So, yes, you can self-initiate into this. Now, I've actually done a couple here. We have I don't want to say it's a ceremony, but it's actually a ritual of initiation where you go through, if you want to be consecrated with the energy, there is a one-on-one initiation that I've done here for several people over the last couple years, where you get 7 African power beads. There's a ceremony or a ritual you go through, which that connects you and consecrates you with the 7 African powers. And then from that point on, you're shown how you work with them on your own. So it's a combination of both. You can do it yourself. It's as simple as, for an example, there's a ritual in here for Simular. It's a basic ritual used with a candle, made with a certain recipe for the 7 African powers herbal formula. You take a bath or a cleansing. You create a simple altar. There's cascarilla. You create a barrier around the altar, which we use a lot in African voodoo, witchcraft, and sorcery. And I'll show you how you would make different I would make adjustments to that ceremony and remove in the invocations, change the words around. Okay, and I'm going to get to that. So yes, the short, quick answer to your question, I'll elaborate on it more later. Yes, you can self-initiate and consecrate yourself to the energy of this. And it's worked in many different systems. You might find people that work with this in Santeria, in Ifa, in Puerto Rican voodoo, the 21 divisions. You'll see a practice of this that comes out of the Dominican Republic. So you'll see a connection with this in a lot of it, and even in Haitian voodoo or voodoo, you'll see a lot of connection with it. So it's a aspect that's connected in. You'll see it in a bunch of systems. I don't mess with it on any of those levels no more. I use the 7 African powers now as gateway deities of the dead, because in essence, that's what they are. Okay, and that's also, I work with it because it's connected to how I work with Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, which most people may or may not know or be familiar with that. When you use it as a gateway deity, a road opener, and we work with a lot of those on the left-hand path, whether it's different masks of the adversary, Lucifer, any of the Goetia or demons we work with, King Belial, Hecate, any of these demonic gods and goddesses are the same thing. They unlock a certain portion of your psyche so you can, one, clear your paths or any blockages, but one, you need to be aware of those. Now, it's no different with these. So now let's get a basic understanding of the 7 African powers, all right? Not just from the basic history, but not just from a traditional aspect, because the book, obviously, which I'm not going to get into, the traditional aspect. I'm going to give you basic definitions of them. So let's start with Obatala. They call him King of the White Cloth, right? They refer to him that he is a spirit of great purity. He embodies coolness and peace, often depicted as an elderly man with white hair, dressed in spotless white cloth, yada, 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 yada. Because he represents a spirit of truth, how would you make the adjustment if I'm working with this on the left-hand path? Right? What could I use Obatala for outside of the traditional methodology? He is the spirit of truth, right? Spirit of great purity. You can access. Now, also, you might or may not have read books with Obatala and these 7 African powers. Is there a connection with your 7 chakras? Yes. They all do align with certain aspects of your chakra, each one. All right? Obatala deals with the head. He deals with knowledge. He deals with wisdom, spirit of truth. So if you want to enhance your knowledge and your wisdom, you can create any ritual or invocation you see fit. How? Because he deals with white, you can create a simple altar with his implements. And you can simply, I would always recommend you writing in your own words, obviously your own personal invocation. And to activate the energy that exists within to increase your capacity for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And you don't need to incorporate, if you want to add all that traditional stuff with offerings, it's not required, okay? So don't get caught up in that. I'm trying to show you majority of this is mental. And sometimes it's just as effective, putting some mental thought and energy to it is just as effective as some of these people who go crazy with all this physical stuff, all these offerings, this and that, etc. It's not necessary. The only way you're going to figure that out is if you experiment with it. But you got to understand the power of it comes from here. If you take the religious approach where, if I don't do it this way, such and such, this can happen or that won't happen and blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. Okay. Obviously, white candles. I like with this particular spirit, to use frankincense or just myrrh incense. Works very effective with Obatala, right? And Obatala can increase your mental capacity. Okay, now understand these paths have different paths, which I ain't going to get into all that today. There's multiple paths of Obatala. I've talked about that many times, just like there is of all the other Orishi. So that's the other thing people don't have an understanding of. They talk about they work with the Orishi, And then I ask them what path, and they look at me like I'm crazy. What do you mean? Well, Obatala has over 8 paths. Which one do you work with? Which one do you connect with? And if you connect with it as a whole, maybe you need to explain that just a little bit more, because that doesn't really make sense. You should be able to identify what aspect of the energy that you connect with. All right. So that's Obatala, right? We're going to go through these real quick, and then we're going to talk. All right. And then on your own time, which I'm not going to waste my time and energy, you'll see what Obatala was synchronized with in modern day Catholicism. He's usually synchronized with Our Lady of Mercy. And I'm not going to get into all that religious shit because it's not even worth my time and energy. Read that on your own. And as we know, the synchronization with Catholic icons and the influence of Catholicism and Christianity comes from the Portuguese slave masters, right? When they captured the slaves, remember, most of the Portuguese slave masters were Catholics. So the only way the African slaves were able to practice their culture and their spiritual path, they had to disguise it behind the religion of Catholicism. So this is why they are synchronized with Catholic icons. Okay, you can do that research on your own. That should be information that you're very familiar with, I would hope. But it's just not worth me getting into all that right now. It's a waste of time. All right, so let me breeze through these so we can build on a higher level. I just want to go get people familiar with the basics. Then the second one let's talk about after Obatala, Yemaya, right? Yemaya is one of the most loved of the Orishi, they say, right? Her domain, what she represents is the life-giving ocean, but all waters of the earth belong to her. Who can we synchronize this with? What beings come to mind if you understand the energy of Yemaya from an occult left-hand path perspective? What similarities, what thoughts come to your mind? I'll give you a second. Somebody want to type it in? Anybody listening, paying attention, thinking? Who can we equate Yemaya? She's slow to anger, quick to forgive. There you go. Blade of Astara. Thank you. The dragon Tiamat. See, that shows me you're thinking. So now you do the math. How can one work with Yemaya? Simple. Just like any other archetype, there's colors and attributes that's associated with her. Blue is her color. Blue candles. Anything that deals with the ocean sea creatures. I've seen people set altars up for her with seashells, dragon, what do they call those? Dragon stars. Any of these things that are affiliated with the ocean, any elements that are affiliated, sea dragons. I've seen those on altars, symbols of them. Because she deals with the primordial waters, right? Very also similar in Egypt, which you should think about this too, Nun, the mother of the chaotic waters in ancient Egypt. Because remember, the story of Nun is from, hold on, the Instagram went off. This fucking Instagram be bugging the fuck out, man. Hold on. Nun represents the primordial chaotic waters in ancient Egypt. Okay? Hold on. I don't know what happened, but she cut off. This fucking thing. Bear with me. People from Instagram got disconnected. Hold on. Let me see if I can close this out. I don't know. Should be happening a lot lately. Shut the window down. Let me restart this. All right, let me restart that. Yeah, also I would look at that connection from Nun, the chaotic waters, because there's a connection with the ocean there with Yemaya. Now, Yemaya is considered one of the oldest Orishi. She's also connected, which is not mentioned in here. She's also connected with another spirit in the system that connects it with Olokun. Now, Olokun is interesting because he's he or she, I should say. Some depicted as a she, some as a he. The spirit is depicted in a very androgynous nature because it embodies masculine and feminine energy. It almost has a Baphomet. It's like I always looked at it as the water version of Baphomet when you understand what Olokun represents. Olokun and Yemaya have a strong connection when you understand it, but I think we need to connect it to the primordial chaotic energy. Tiamat is very good. Nut is the one that you were trying to refer to, Kevin. That's Set's mother. But that deals with the sky, the mother being ripped from the womb. So yeah, anything of that primordial, chaotic, motherly energy. Tiamat, obviously, to me, would be the best synchronization for Yemaya. So I'm gonna connect it to left-hand path aspects so you can do your own creation. So that's how you would work with Yemaya. She embodies that motherly energy. She deals with that raw force, that raw energy. This is why she can be very, and she has a very serious warrior past. She can be very aggressive and violent, but very forgiving, compassionate, and loving. Very similar to Tiamat. Again, her colors are blue. Anything that deals with the ocean, there's that connection with Leviathan, because Yemaya can bring you that continuity that we are missing in our lives. And continuity is consistency. So a very important energy that you can adjust in your left-hand path work if you decide that's the route you want to go. So that's Yemaya. Again, I'm going to breeze through these and we're going to build. I ain't going to stay on this stuff for too long. You'll see in this book, it gives you some of what we call in this culture, the Pataki. What are the Pataki in Ifa? Anybody know what the Pataki are? You familiar with that term? If you study or I don't know what the fuck's going on with Instagram banned me or some shit. Oh, Instagram blocked me. Anybody familiar what the Patakis are in this pantheon or spiritual system? You should be educated to them. Anybody? I'll give it a 30 seconds to a minute or so. If I don't see nothing, that I would assume most people do not know what the Pataki are. Hold on, Instagram coming back up. Hold on, let me start this. All right, so it doesn't look like anybody knows. Something we had to learn when we come in. You can find books. They basically are the stories or the mythology of the origins of the Orishi. I have a book over there. I just don't feel like going to get it right now, to be honest with you. So I'll explain. They have the story of creation in there. I don't want to say, if I had to liken it, it's kind of like the scripture of the Ifa pantheon, because it tells you the origin of the Orishi, how the earth was created, how they got here, and again, it's theories and mythology. Look at it as a grimoire in the sense in a spiritual system or pantheon, but it gives the practitioner some of the history or origins of these particular spirits or deities, right? You should read the history and origins of them just so you have an understanding, because it'll tell you what they represent. Patakins, that's it. Like Brother Angel said, parables, because they are mythologies. That would be a way, and I know you know, Angel, because you're initiated in the shit, so I know. You see what Angel typed in, you might see it spelled like that, or you might see it drop the N and the S. You might also see it spelled like that. There's two ways, but he spelled it probably in the more traditional way, the surface English way. Just drop the N and the S. You'll find it one way. Just Google it. And there are books you can find that have the stories, these Patakis in them. Just Google it. Again, I'm saying that if it's an area of interest to study, I would do it. All right. All right. So with Yemaya, that's basically, again, in a short nutshell. Now, you might see her synchronized with many aspects of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Catholicism. All right. You'll see many different aspects. Usually Our Lady of Regalia or Regla or Regalia, as they say in English, Regla. It's basically an icon that's used in Catholicism that's synchronized again with the Blessed Mother, as they say. Again, I ain't gonna stay on that shit too long. Do that research on your own. The next one, which I am very familiar with, okay? All right, so Mystic Moons found it. If you find any good links, maybe you can put it in the chat for the people. Actually, you know what? Let me go grab the one book I would recommend. It's a very simple read. Let me go grab my Pataki book so I can put it up there for you guys. Hold on. I had to go digging for these, man. Man. All right, I'm two books. I've had these for a good minute. All right, this one's been out for a while. You should be able to pull this one up. I'm sure on Amazon. This book came out about 10 or 11 years ago, I believe. I think 2009 or 2010. If you can't find it on Amazon, destinybooks.com is the website on the back. But this is an excellent book to get that history. Teachings of the Sorcery of Gods. It's got all the Patakis, the major Patakis in here. It's written by an African. And he's giving you the breakdown of how it's also used in Nigeria, which is very important. So that's the book there, The Sorcery of Gods, The Spirit of the Odu. Okay. This one too. This one might be a little confusing if you're not an Ifa practitioner. This is a really good book. Something that we had to study and master. John Mason put this out. This is Orin Orisha, and this is Songs for Selected Heads. It's a very detailed book. It's got a lot of stories and parables of the Orishi, some of the chants, etc. But again, for research purposes. But this is the book if you want to get a good rundown of all the Patakis, all the major. Why I suggest this book is because all the major Patakis are in this book, so you can understand. It'll help you if you decide to work with them from an occult perspective even further. All right, so just let me throw that out there. All right, so Oshun, who I'm very familiar with, obviously, because that's my guardian Orishi. All right, Oshun is the spirit of rivers and fresh water. She's connected also to similar energy like Yemaya. Sometimes they're confused because the thing is she deals with fresh water, right? There's a lot of symbolism in that. And Yemaya deals with salt water. Salt water deals with the life, right? She's affiliated with rivers and streams, anything that's fresh water, right? So there's a high aspect of nature to this that we need to really understand and be connected with so we understand how it works. Now, here's her surface. Oshun's associations with love, wealth, and beauty, right? This is what the standard. They always attribute Oshun with a lot of materialistic things, but she's much more than that. All right. The path, as I've mentioned many times in the past that I connect with, or that I am connected to, I shouldn't say connect with, is her witchcraft sorceress aspect. There's an aspect of her as a sorceress or a witch down by the river. She has a warrior path that's very aggressive. They say in a lot of these spiritual systems that she's the worst Orishi to anger because she doesn't forgive. She holds grudges. In that sense, she's very, she has where Yemaya has the primordial mother energy, Oshun has the anger and rage of Tiamat. So I look at them as two different manifestations. Now, her color is yellow, right? Yellow is a very highly spiritual color. Yellow can be used to launch psychic attacks and protect from psychic attacks if you understand the color yellow and how it vibrates on the spectrum. In essence, that's what Oshun represents. From a deeper, and again, remove just the materialistic things. And I'm not saying that stuff is not true because I myself have worked with Oshun over the past years dealing with financial success and prosperity. So I'm not downplaying that. What I am downplaying, like Kali or like some of these other, like Kali, it's always sexual energy. She's so much more than that. I think we need to focus on the rooted spiritual principles of what they represent and not just get tied in because the people that are ignorant and working with Oshun, they're always trying to get materialistic wealth and all this shit, which, if I've said this before, would come if people's goal is to have knowledge of self first, is to get the spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and understanding first. All of that stuff will come. But when you come on the path and that's your main goal right out the gate, I can tell you, you're not going to be successful. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? You're going to struggle. I'm not saying you can't get moments of success here and there. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying you will not be consistent. Trust me when I tell you that. All right? So Oshun, we can connect with her witchcraft sorceress aspect. Okay? That's the path I would work with because sorcery deals with transformation and change. And what better archetype than Oshun to bring about? But Oshun, if I had to liken her, more so might have the temperament of Tiamat, but works very similar to Kali because she embodies sexuality. She can bring materialistic and financial blessings, but she is a road clearer. She has a Kali-like energy, okay? Now you'll see her with a Catholic icon or synchronization of a Cuban aspect of the Virgin Mary, Caridad del Cobra. You'll see this because the story is there was a couple of young Cuban kids. You'll see this image of them in the boat with the Blessed Mary. Apparently they had some apparition in connection with her. Again, I'm not gonna waste my time and energy on it. Do your own research. To me, it's not really important. Get the history so you can be educated, but I'm not going to waste my time and energy on that today because that's not the purpose. I'm not interested in going over the religious history. Do that on your own time. But again, she too is synchronized with the Virgin Mary and Catholicism. This is why they're considered very similar in likeness and energy with as far as her and Yemaya. All right. So that's Oshun. So you can work with her as a sorceress on a whole nother level. And that's the way I work with Oshun now. I have a very good understanding of working with Oshun because, again, that's my guardian Orishi. That's the Orishi that rules the head. So I went through that whole getting familiar with the aspects of that, as they say, ashe or energy. And I don't even like to use that word because that's become commercialized. Then next one, which seems like every dude you run into in this culture thinks they're Shango. Let's talk about Shango real quick, okay? Shango clearly obvious is a warrior energy. If you haven't figured that out by now. But brief understanding. Shango is a powerful and much loved deity from Nigeria. Shango has power over lightning, fire. He embodies masculinity, virility. He carries weapons, the axes. We know he's a fighter. We know he does carry a strong masculine sexual energy. In the Patakas, he's known in a sense as a womanizer. He loves females. We know the stories in the Patakis of the wars that Oya and Oshun went through, etc. But he's a warrior energy. I would work with Shango to clear paths when you're dealing with internal spiritual battles. And obviously his color is red, which deals with passion, right? You see his color on not the red and black, but the red, because he deals with passion, fire, and he can be utilized again to deal with whatever issues. A great deity to work with if you're doing shadow work, because any archetype that's connected to road clearing or path clearing work, Shango can do that. He can fight. You can access, create rituals with him simply with, well, let me back up what it's showing. Again, I told you colors are yellow. And again, there's a lot of things that are simulated with her with the waters, rivers, sunflowers is known to be attributed to her. So I've seen people create shrines or altars with those colors, yellow candles, etc. I forgot to run through that. Again, I'm giving you the brief run through because I don't want to stay on it forever. So Shango's color is red. My son has initiated Shango. He went through that. I laugh because just a bunch of shit comes to mind over the years. He's a complex individual. But here's the one thing he's known as that a lot of people don't talk about: a powerful magician. And this book talks about it. And we don't look at Shango as, we don't really use that term on this path, but the book does. It refers to him as a powerful magician. He is very powerful if you work with him from that aspect. All right. So red, his number, by the way, is 6, which we'll get into, you do the math. But you see how they have an illustration of him there. See that? He's a warrior energy. You do the math. Very simple to work with him on the left-hand path in the occult, removing all the traditional shit. So you can create a ritual using those colors. You can incorporate your chalice, your dagger. You can even put an axe on the altar and use that as your magical tool. Right? It's not complicated to do this, but I'm putting this out there because I'm so damn tired of hearing about this shit over the years, because it just seems that some people cannot leave the traditional shit alone. So I'm here to tell you, if you're gonna work with it, put your own flavor on it. Put it in line with the current of the occult and the left-hand path, not the traditional aspect. Because if you do, you're gonna get fucked up. I'm telling you, you're gonna get stuck like Chuck in between. Because you're going to get conflicted about doing the traditional shit and doing it this way, and then you're going to become all fucked up and jumbled in the head. And this is why I said we have to be careful, because there's a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of people out there who claim to be a cult or left-hand path or whatever, but they're putting all this fluffy bunny shit and mixing all this fluffy bunny traditional shit. That is not a cult or left-hand path. We work with it in its adversarial form. What does adversarial mean? Comes from the word adversary, to be adverse to the norm. So if you're working it with the traditional system, you're not working with the adversarial current. You can't be, because you're still working with the I saw this pop out of the bottom of my head. Lord Jamal Divine, I don't think so. I think it's every 30 days, but today is the 29th. So if you or anybody else is going to sign up, I'd probably just wait another day or two. But to my knowledge, I think your billing cycle, I mean, you can contact customer service. Don't quote me on this. I think your cycle, your 30-day cycle goes according to the day you sign up. I'm almost 100% certain, because I got people that sign up all different days of the month. And it tells me when they sign up that their cycle begins this. Now, I don't know if that's just for me, so I don't want to give misinformation, but you could probably contact customer service. I think your cycle goes based on the day you sign up. That's how your monthly cycle goes. Because if that's the case, I'm sure they would put openly out there some sign up on the 1st, but not sure. All right, so that's Shango, right? We can work with him as a powerful magician. We can work with him as a road clearing energy. In our own way. You do the math. It's not complicated, okay? Now, Shango is synchronized in Catholicism with Santa Barbara, right? You see, I showed you that image on the cover. That's Santa Barbara right there. You see Shango. That you'll see this if you've ever traveled the world or the country and seen, or more so in the United States, and you see botanicas. You see a lot of these Catholic icons, and it'll say a botanica, a religious store. Well, to the unlearned, on the outside, it might look like it's Catholic Christian, but you might get confused as fuck if you go in on the inside. Now, in a lot of my disagreements and arguments with a lot of traditionalists over the last 10 years, I've asked this question and they get mad. So it looks Catholic on the surface because I told you why they're synchronized earlier with these Catholic icons. But I've always posed this question, and no, this is the only answer I get. But I wonder if it's really the answer. I'll say, well, all right, I could see back in them times, due to the enslavement by the Portuguese slave masters, that they had to, for fear and to protect their life, to disguise their religion and culture behind Catholicism. So the slave master thought they were giving homage to the Catholic saints, but they were worshiping the Orishi, or connecting with their African gods and goddesses. I get that. That would serve the purpose then. The question I pose, and they get hot in the head, why are we still doing that in 2020? What would be the point? There's no need for us in fear to disguise our spiritual culture or path, okay? Now, the only explanation I get, well, it's tradition. Well, we've been doing it for so long. Well, that's just the way it is. Really? So if you grew up your entire life as a female and you watched your father physically abuse your mother, are you as a female going to go marry a dude that beats on you and abuses you just because that's the way it is? And you grew up saying that your whole life, and that doesn't make any sense to me. It's stupid. Okay? It's actually very ignorant. Okay? Or is there something deeper subconsciously at play? Are you still subliminally in a slave-minded indoctrination? See, that's some shit people don't want to talk about. Maybe if you did shadow work, you would uncover why you still feel the need to connect. Because, see, my thing is, the reason why we need to dump the traditional aspect of it, and you should only use it should hold significant, personal, spiritual aspect. Now, I only connect or work with one of it because it's personal. It's family, bloodline, lineage. I do use a Catholic image or synchronization with it when it comes to Elegua or Pambagira. But there's a reason for that. I had a ritual experience. I'm not going to get into that now. If it doesn't hold a personal experience outside of tradition, then toss it to the curb. It's a waste of time. Because you need to ask yourself, why do you still feel the need to be loyal and devoted? Because you're connecting to that same current. See, there's this old saying, right? To those that believe it anyway. If you believe, right, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught in Message to the Black Man, right? If you're familiar with his teachings, one thing he was an advocate of, which actually is contradiction when you look at Master Farad Muhammad. That's a whole nother story. I want to get into that shit now. I'm just using this as an example. Why would you worship the same God or use the same religion or spiritual system that kept your ancestors and your bloodline in slavery? And now everybody's jaw drops. Why would you do that? If that's your stance, if you are an advocate of that methodology, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just saying, to me, it's irrelevant because I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff anymore. I've tossed all that to the curb because what we do learn to do on this path is how to work with the archetype and what it represents and the consciousness it projects. When you get caught up in the semantics and the history and the back and forth and the tradition, the do's and the don'ts, you should do this, you can't do that, you shouldn't do this, such and such said this, Babalawo said that, Madrina said this, Padrina, you're going to be all fucked up in your head. You're going to be all conflicted. See, I only do what Beniti says to do. I don't give a fuck. I do what Beniti says to do. Why? Because regardless of when any traditionalist or anybody out there opinion might be, I know it works for me. That's all that matters. I'm not in this game no more to prove to traditional such and such, to Baba Boo Boo, that I got to validate myself to him or to anybody that's coming from a traditional perspective. All I know is what I do work and gives me results. And the only person I need to confirm is to myself. And once I've done that, I'm good. I don't care what it looks like from the outside. I don't care if people that are looking at it from the outside say, oh man, that brother's crazy. He don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about because you're looking at it with tunnel vision. Of course, I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm talking about when you are a traditionalist. You have blinders on. You don't see what's going on to the right, the left of you, and behind you. Only thing you see is what the slave indoctrination that leads you and pulls you from the front. You know, like a horse, when a horse races on a racetrack, you know, they put blinders on him, right? So he doesn't get distracted by the other horses on either side of him. He could just stay focused and look ahead. There's a twofold to that. One does help with focus and concentration, but it also can limit your perception, right? Think about that for a minute. It can help you focus and concentrate. We do that when we scry, right? We want our periphery to be blocked out so we don't have distractions. Concentration is one thing. Perspective is a whole nother thing. We don't want our perspective to be limited because then we're stuck in shit like that way of thinking, all right? So that's Shango, all right? All right, let me rip through these, watching the time, because I know the fam's gonna be looking for dinner soon. Friday night, I make my dinner runs. That's my Friday night ritual with the family. We order out, chill, hang out. I know little guy will be busting down in here in a minute. Dad, I'm hungry. It's the Friday ritual. Orunmila, all right? Let's talk about Orunmila. Now, he's considered the spirit of wisdom, destiny, and prophecy. You do the math. Orunmila can be used to enhance your divination skills. I would work with Orunmila to enhance psychometry, telepathy, clairvoyance, intuition, prophesizing, and, you know, having the ability to enhance your spiritual gifts, right? That's the short form, right? Babalawos, all right? A babalawo commits his life to Orunmila. He uses the peletre, he uses the odus. It's important that he masters all 247 odus. It's how he divinates. Orunmila is the god of divination. It's quite simplistic terms. He is classified as, quote unquote, I'm using a very simplistic term, the mouthpiece of God, the spokesperson of the creator, right? He is the main focal point in divination. If anybody's ever done a spiritual divination reading with the babalawo, you know they use the tray of Orunmila, right? If you've ever, and it amazes me how people, this is another thing that fucking kills me. People will say, yeah, they practice Santeria Ifa, and I asked them, well, so, you know, who is your guardian angel? Who rules your head? And they'll say Yemaya. And then I'll ask them, how did you find this out? Right? And let me tell you, let me eliminate the bullshit for you. It can't be done by using the obi, the coconuts. That's not the right way to do it. It can't be done by using the cowrie shells. That's not the right way to do it. The correct way to do it, and if you come from a good house, it should have been done with 3 babalawos present. And all of them are sitting on the floor. This is how I've done mine. All of them are sitting on the floor, and they all have their Orunmila trays in front of them. And the reason why all three need to be in alignment. When it's done through systems of obi or through the cowrie, it can be inaccurate. And if you go through a full initiation system, most babalawos will make you do it again. And I've seen where they were told, let's say by a padrino or a madrina, that this is their guardian angel. And then I've seen them come up under a babalawo, and the babalawo, through his divination with Orunmila, he's getting something else. And he will tell the practitioner, I think you should do this ceremony again and do it the right way. And then I've seen where it totally got switched to something else. Like, let me give you an example. They were telling me before I did it, and it makes sense when you find out afterwards. Even my godmother swore. They were telling me Shango. It's Shango. Everybody, oh, it's Shango. This was being pumped in my head for over 6 months. And they were all wrong. I went before the babalawo, and it was Oshun. Now, here's why the Shango energy, because I have a lot of Shangos around me. My son was Shango, right? Oshun does have a strong energy connection to Shango. There are a lot of attributes that are similar. There's warrior energies, they're aggressive, sexuality. So it's very easy for one to get confused. A Shango and an Oshun energy can be confused very easily, male or female. So this is why, and it made sense. But see, my godmother, she does it the right way because she don't do it. She brings 3 babalawos in, and you go before the 3 babalawos. And it's confirmed through the signs of Odu. Okay? Not because, but anyway, that's the traditional stuff. So this is how we ought to look at Orunmila. If we're going to work with him on the left hand and remove all the traditional shit, look at him to enhance your divination skills, right? He can be used, you can aspect your diviner, again, enhancing psychometry, clairvoyance, intuition, telepathy, your spiritual gifts, which you should have those gifts on this path. Some people just use it for their own personal stuff. They're not interested in using it on any other level, but you should be connected spiritually, all right? All right, I see some good questions. I'm going to get to you guys on the Instagram in a second. I see a couple good questions in there. All right, so that's Orunmila. Let me breeze through the rest of these. So this is how we can now, Orunmila's colors, you'll see those colors there, yellow and green. They make candles because yellow and green are what those colors represent, are a highly spiritual nature. We talked about yellow with Oshun, can be launched to send out psychic attacks, draw in, protect from psychic attacks. It's a color that's used heavily in the Caribbean for a lot of spiritual rituals. Yellow. We know what the green represents, so we combine the green and the yellow for Orunmila. So you do your math. There you see a symbol of Orunmila, and that's the Odu tray you see in front of them. That's what the Babalawos use when you go before them to find out who rules their head. 3 of them are sitting there like that, and you sit in the center. And they ask Orunmila who rules the head. I'm just saying that's the traditional. Because I've heard some crazy ass stories how people found out, and I'm like, you weren't told the right way. Now you might see him synchronized in Catholicism with Saint Francis of Assisi, who is a patron saint out of Italy. I'm gonna leave that there. All right, one of my favorite, who I have this energy in Palo through Sarabanda, no joke. And it's funny because Oguns and Shangos are supposedly told they don't get along, but I found that to be the opposite with me. I've always attracted friends, especially in my house. Most of my close brothers were Shangos. And as we know the story, Shango and Ogun don't get along. So they say, right? I don't know how true that is. So they say, all right? Ogun is also a warrior energy, but he's a worker. He deals with metals, iron. You'll see anybody that deals with weapons or in the profession of weapons works with Ogun. A lot of his children are synonymous with being workaholics, right? You'll see this a lot. They just workers. You'll see some of them might have 3 and 4 jobs. They run businesses. I mean, they work night and day. They don't stop working. They are very aggressive in nature. They're usually good fighters. They're attracted to weapons, fighting, martial arts, all of those things. Again, very similar. I think as I look back on it now and I look at it from the occult, I think Ogun and Shango hate each other because they're so similar. That's just how I look at it. It's like 2 warring brothers who have very similar attributes and characteristics outside of the story with Oshun. Yeah, we know, and that's a good pataki to read. How Oshun used her sexuality and used the honey and lured Ogun out of the forest. You know, we know the story behind that. But there's a lesson to be learned from that metaphor. Even the strongest man can be weakened by the honey and the nectar of sexuality, especially via Oshun. So how do we apply that pataki to us on this path of the occult? Be careful. Because if you're utilizing sex magic or working with any of that energy, be careful what you're drawing to you, because you might be drawing the forbidding nectar of Oshun, and you might be lured out of your personal forest. And then we know what happened after that. He couldn't he basically he became so infatuated. Think about how this applies to people you know. He became so infatuated and enraged with the energy of Oshun that we know the story after that. We don't need to get in it. We know the battle and the wars and the disagreements that took place. But the funny thing is, there's very similar energy with Oguns and Shangos. I tend to think Ogun is a little more aggressive. He's a more volatile energy because the path, one thing I was told, and this was crazy because when they pulled my guardian angel, they said there's a cross with another Orishi there. It came up immediately. That's why Ogun rules the body, because the path that I have, they explained to me clearly years ago, it walks with Ogun. And I remember years later, I walked into my godfather's Botanica, which is not far off in Ridgewood, Queens, near Myrtle and Bushwick, more on the Myrtle side of Ridgewood, Queens, if you're familiar with the area, Oshun Botanica, which is still there. And I remember first time I walked in there to go see my godfather, he told me to come down to the Botanica. This is when I first met them. And I walked in and he has a sister that's been in there for a while working with him, runs the Botanica. And she told me when I walked in that she saw Ogun walk behind me, right? This is what they see because this is they're in tune, etc. So I laughed because I was told that I already knew that prior to that, but what that confirmed to me was this is legit. And I didn't say anything. Nobody knew shit yet. This was my first meeting with my godfather. When I first met them, this was the first reading session I had with him. And when she made that comment to me, I said, okay, they're legit. And of course, I'm not gonna get into the rest of the session, but a lot of things were told. And these people basically, when you find the right ones, and I'm not encouraging anybody to or to not, it's basically witchcraft and sorcery. It's what we do, minus the traditional shit. And I'm trying again to show you guys how you don't stop feeling like you need to be confined and a slavery to that traditional stuff. It shows me you have no belief in the power of yourself. If you don't believe that you can't connect with this on your own, that you need somebody else to do it for you, then I would question psychologically what's going on subconsciously down there. Why do you feel this need to still follow? Why do you feel this need that you still need somebody else to do this for you? It doesn't mean you can't have somebody assist and show you how to do it. That's not what I'm saying. Because I help and assist and show people how to do this. But anybody that's done work with me with this over the years, with the understanding at some point moving forward, you need to start doing this for yourself. Okay? Ogun's colors, as we know, are green and black. You'll see, as you see, green and black. So you can set up any shrine or altar and create any ritual invocation, any weaponry, machetes, knives, daggers, and blades are very synonymous weapons affiliated with Oshun. When you get your warrior pot consists of Elegua, Ogun, and there's a combination of his implements in your warrior pot or your naga. Well, not your naga, but your pot. All right, green and black are his colors. You'll see him a lot synchronized in Catholicism with St. Peter is probably one of his most. I've seen also St. John the Baptist. The reason why, obviously, with St. John the Baptist, because St. John the Baptist lived in the wilderness. There's a synchronization with Ogun in the forest and the wilderness. You get the point. But yeah, again, not going to get into all the religious shit. Probably one of the most important, okay? And it's funny how he's last, but Elegua, and I'm going to put it as simplistic terms as I can for you. Elegua is nothing but the African aspect of Lucifer. It is another mask of the adversary. And this is why I have a shrine to the aspects, they're different but connected, of Elegua and Papa Legba when we're dealing with the Bodan aspect of it. Why? He's the opener and the closer. He's the pathway and the roadway to all knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's why you'll see Elegua synonymous with the trickster, right? They'll say he's a trickster, not in the sense that he tricks and lures you into deception to make your life miserable. No, he does place hardships there so you can overcome them and master yourself. He is the ultimate personification of the adversary because he brings out the good and bad in you. This is why, and when you go look at the traditional aspect of it, this is why just about every ritual is opened with Propitating and Elegua, just like it is with Papalegua and Voodoo, and it's usually closed with Propitating. Now, I'm very familiar with Elegua because my godmother is Elegua, and she possesses every aspect of Elegua. When she gets possessed, she's actually dressed almost just like that, the hat. And what does that look like? You ever seen the crook and the flail in ancient Egypt? Right? What does that represent? Godhood, right? He's carrying one aspect of it, right? And then you see, I'm not going to get to the Elegua head now, but it's another form. How do we look at this from the occult and the left-hand path? How would one work with Elegua? Real simple. Look at Elegua like Lucifer. He's the facilitator of all this energy. Look at Elegua like Lucifer or Samael on the Klippoth tree. All roads and pathways go through Elegua, just like all Klippoths and openings go through Lucifer and Lilith, or Samael / Lucifer Lilith, whatever you want to refer to, that floats your boat. So you're taught that nothing can be done with starting point of Elegua and ending point of Elegua, right? He is the ultimate mask of the adversary. Now, the funny thing is, if you can Google this, all you got to do is Google it. Pull up images of Elegua or Papalegua in Nigeria, and you will see a face of an African man with horns like Lucifer, and sometimes you'll see him propped sitting down with an erected penis. These are the true images of Elegua. That represents every aspect of Lucifer / Elegua that one can think of when you really study its imagery, right? And that's when you go to the Ila Ife. When you pull these images up, pull them up yourself, right? He is the ultimate manifestation of the adversary. You work with him as a representation of the masks of the adversary because he's the facilitator. When you look at the pantheon, very similar to how we look at him in the Klipothic, right? That's why some even refer to him as the devil or the trickster, but not in that, get that religious shit out of your head. Now, what's interesting is if you go over to Brazil, Pambagira, he has a female counterpart, his wife. And in Candomblé in Brazil, which in my opinion is closer to the African spiritual practices of it, in my opinion, they're more closer per se. There is some influence of Catholicism and religion there. I'm not saying there's not, minus all that shit. But I find that that's very similar to the Samael or Lucifer Lilith energy in the Klipothic, where in that system he has a female counterpart. And they both, it's unique if you understand how they both work. You should understand that because obviously we look at his colors, red and black. We know what those colors symbolize to us on the occult, right? We know red represents the passion and we know what the black represents, okay? It represents the void, the darkness, the abyss, unlimited possibilities, no limitations, no boundaries, right? We don't even need to really go through that. Black and red, not a coincidence he's affiliated with that, right? We also see many aspects when you look at Elegua and what he represents. So how could we work with Elegua on the occult? Well, that one way I just described. And due to the fact he brings out the best in you, but make sure all of your challenges and obstacles are faced. What does that sound like when we deal with the occult? When we deal with Lucifer, if we're dealing with Samael, if we're dealing with Azazel, if we're working, what's a lot of the central, I'm talking about, I know they represent various levels of aspects when you're working the occult and rituals. But what one common thing do they all have in common, like Elegua? You must face your personal, I don't like to even use the word demons because we work with demons. Demons are not a bad thing. You must deal with your personal issues that you need to correct about yourself via your shadow work. Well, Elegua can be used as the ultimate archetype to do shadow work. Because here's how Elegua works. The reason why, again, as I said earlier, they call him a trickster energy, because if Elegua sees you running from some shit, let me give you an example. If you know you got some fucked up shit about yourself and you trying to avoid it, Elegua's going to intentionally place it in your path and make you deal with it. And that, in essence, is what we want to do on this path. We're not trying to run from anything. We're not trying to sweep our weaknesses under the rug. Shadow work, alchemy, and doing rituals on this path is about bringing it to the surface so we can deal with it, so we can master it, okay? So he is the ultimate embodiment of Lucifer, or the adversary, or the masks, or the many faces or masks of the adversary that we are aware of, all right? I think you get the point. So that's just a quick run through of the 7, right? So hopefully you can see how you can work with them. Now, the last thing I want to do, and then I'm going to finish with, I'll go through the chat and look at your questions and your comments, and I'll do my best, time permitted, to answer them. All right. Now, in the back of this book, there are rituals where you can consecrate yourself to the energy of the African powers, but I would remove the religious shit. I would create my own invocations. You don't need to say any of that religious stuff. It's real self-explanatory. There are herbal, there's a recipe in the back to make an essential oil for the African power. So how I would utilize that to anoint my candles, consecrate ritual tools if I was doing some work with them. The oil, the recipe you could keep as it is. For an example, it's got jojoba oil, grapefruit, jasmine, cinnamon, cedarwood, basil, anise. We use a lot of those essential oils in our ritualistic work. So you can create a oil if you want to use that recipe in the back to consecrate your candles or any ritual tools you're using for any of these archetypes. Just to give you a quick example, there's a bath that you can create here. For an example, coconut milk, seawater, fresh basil, coconut, Florida water, no problem with that, rum. There's a powder that you can make that can be used for sorcery and divination if you decide. You don't really need to change much of that because there's a lot of ritual. I would just, when you get to the opening ritual, right, that would be the ritual towards the back if you decided that you wanted to do to connect yourself with the energy of the 7 African powers, but I would change the invocations completely. I wouldn't even fuck with it, all right? And then there's a 7-day ritual. I've utilized this several times over the years. If you have a specific goal or an intent, there's a 7-day ritual which you want to set up a small makeshift altar. Again, change the invocation. You can use, if you do incorporate some of the recipes for the ritual oil, you can actually use that for the ritual. And then there's some basic invocations or prayers to the back, again, that you can change, etc. You get the point. It's important we be creative and put our own personal stamp on it and work with it from an occult left-hand path perspective and not utilize all that traditional stuff. It's not necessary. It's only necessary if you want to make a conscious decision to be in tradition. It's only necessary if you've accepted in your mind that the only way I can work with this is I have to follow all the traditional rules and I need to get into a traditional house. That's your business. But I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I've been through all that, done that, got the t-shirt. As I said, been initiated and all that. I left it years ago. I found I have just as much or more power to connect with it on my own. And it's just as effective and then some. And the only thing I need to confirm that, one, again, is to myself based on the results I get. I couldn't give a shit if anybody agrees with it or doesn't. It's irrelevant to me. The only person I need to convince is myself. All right. So having said that, let me just see what questions I can get to. And then we'll finish this up. All right. We go to the top. So hopefully you got some questions. So this is just a quick primer. And I hope this dispels more of the mythology on all this. But let me take this first question over here. I don't know if this person is still on Instagram. I forgot from earlier. Rasadu asked, when I was talking earlier about why they synchronize or still using the synchronization as far as the Orishi with Catholic saints, he says, yeah, they have no real explanation for embracing the Catholic saints. In Brazil, the Orishi traditions, they casted off the Catholic syncretism. So they have no real answer. And that's why I was mentioning Candomblé not too long ago. But again, see, why I asked that question, I was getting an argument with the traditionalists, Why are we still using that? Because I can understand why they did that back then in slavery, because they were enslaved and their lives were at stake, but that's not the case now. So is there a deeper thing at play here subconsciously? Maybe subconsciously, you're still mentally indoctrinated and in a form of mental slavery, and you just don't see it. So the reason why they don't have an answer is because there is no justification for it. They're simply just doing it because they've consciously made a decision to keep it. And their only answer is, well, it's tradition. Well, we've been doing it this way for so many years. Well, that's great. That's cool if that's okay with you. And I have no problem with that. But I do got a problem when you want to get on my ass and bitch and complain and tell me what I can and cannot do. That's not going to happen. I don't accept that. That's my prerogative. I couldn't give a fuck if anybody likes it or not. It's irrelevant. I just know that it's not necessary. How? By the work I do and the results I get. That's all I need to know. I don't need to convince anybody of that. It's irrelevant. Regardless of who says what, it's irrelevant. So there is no justification for it. And as I said, if you grew up watching, if you were a woman and grew up in an abusive household and your father beat down your mother every day, so as a woman, when you get older, are you going to go marry a man that beats you down because it's tradition? Because it's it's just the way it's always been. Come on, man. That's ignorance, man. That's ignorance on an all-time high level. All right, but good point. Appreciate that comment from Instagram. All right. Woke Media, what's going on, brother? We're looking for you in the Black Flame 11 meeting, brother. Hope everything is well with you. I know there's a lot of chaos, has been going on in New York over the last 7 months. All right, infernal blessings to all. All right. So again, quick shout out, Miss Jazz, Wendy Coleman Sue. Interesting name, Wendy Coleman Sue. Greetings to Brother Angel from the Boogie Down. Kitai, is that Kitty Mama or Kitai Mama? What's going on? I hope I didn't butcher your name, sis. What else we got? All right, shout out to Bridget. Tall and Thin 123. Sarok and Soul Messiah. The name rings a bell. At the moment, I'm not going to front with you. I can't recall if I am. I might be and just can't recall right now. So I don't want to tell you that I am and don't know what I'm talking about. But the name does sound, I felt like I've stumbled across that somewhere. Just can't recall right now, which probably alludes to the fact that I'm not very familiar with it. So no, maybe if you send me a link, I'll look into it more. Or if there's something maybe you want to connect to it, but cannot recall at the moment. What else we got? Shout out to Brother Duma. Duma's in the building. I told you guys last week, get at Duma if you're looking for some good occult jewelry. I showed you guys the piece last week he made for me about a year or so ago. He made me a really nice Lucifer pendant that I was wearing casually at first. But as I mentioned last week, due to my work, I was inspired by something that happened to me in my ritual work that I consecrated it as an amulet that I only wear during rituals now. And I'm not going to get into that. All that, that's personal. So I think that originally he gave it to me, free. He gave it to me as a promotional item. And I see there was a bigger purpose to it, whether he realizes that or now he may or may not. He basically just reached out to me, say, hey, man, I want to make this piece for you. And I said, cool, I'll promote it once you send it, and I'll promote your work. So I don't know if he understands the significance. He may now. Maybe we both didn't at the time. But it's become a very powerful magical tool for me now. He does good work. So he's in the chat under the name Duma Ken Rez. You see him in there? I call him Duma. Inbox him. I'm sure he will get back to you. He's very efficient, quick, communicating. If you're interested in a custom occult piece, talk to him. Let him know what you're looking for. If you work with a certain pantheon, reach out to him. I'm sure he can come up with something for you. That's Brother Duma Ken Rez. Duma, if you're still in here, feel free, brother, when you come in, put your contact information in there. So anybody that wants to reach out to you for any occult jewelry can reach out to you. And again, as I've been saying, let's support If we know people that are on this path that do this work, support them, man. Don't be so fucking cheap and don't be bitching about prices. Because I think everybody that I work with in this network is pretty fair on their prices. But it's like, look, if you want good shit, you might have to pay slightly more for it. I'm not talking about be a fool and get ripped off. But if you want good shit, man, you got to pay a little something to get it. Stop being so fucking cheap. And when it comes into your, when you're investing in your spirituality, you don't want cheap shit. I know I don't. I'm not looking for garbage shit. So Duma's definitely, you might want to reach out to him, all right? Yes, good comment. So Bridget, you've been called an Oshun girl. For what reason? I'm just joking. Brother Angel, good comments. Personal, yeah, we were talking about that the other night. Magic is magic. It's just classified by different spiritual pantheons. That's all. So the approach might vary depending on the spiritual system you're using. But it's like, I get this question so many times over the year. Isn't all magic the same? And I've always answered that yes and no. What do you mean, Beniti? You're contradicting yourself. It either is or it isn't. Yes and no. Let me explain. You hear people break it down into categories: white magic, black magic. Really, it's white magic, gray magic, and black magic. Why do we just use that classification? Well, your white magic would be your more paganism, Wicca, earth magic, because a lot of white magic deals with earth magic, right? Gray magic, in my opinion, is high magic, like Order of the Golden Dawn, Order Templi Orientis, Crowley and Thelema. That's high magic. It's not per se fully dark, occult left-hand path. There are some elements to it, but I would consider Israel Regard. All those people are in line with high magic. So it's not really white magic or earth magic, and it's not really dark, completely dark or sorcerous, because there is elements of earth magic and some of the lighter stuff. Whereas dark magic or black magic embodies all of that. That's the difference. And that's why we refer to ourselves as black magicians, black adepts, because a good black adept or black magician spends their life coming up with the formula of harmony to embody light and darkness in a harmonious aspect to themselves. We do use what we call the lighter aspects of magic on this path. We don't, but we know it has its root in dark magic or sorcery. And we must go to the source to connect with every other aspect of it. Hence, we have the term, one must go into the dark to do the work of the light, right? That's Lucifer in a nutshell. Lucifer, the light bearer, embodies all the intellect that we need. We were talking about Elegua earlier, to bring us to that realization or awareness. And that's what makes the mask of the adversary through the form of Lucifer different than a lot of shit that's out there. Because he shows you how to embody light and darkness in the harmonic formula that you need for your personal self. That's in essence what this path is about. So we use the dark forces, we use the light forces, but we come up with our own harmony or formula that works for us, which basically is what I talk about all the time, your personal path to self-mastery. Not somebody else's, not some club or group you joined, not because you went through some lodge and completed the degrees and got a certificate that says you're a master. I did that too. Been through the Blue House, crossed the hot desert, went through the shrine, went through the Red House, okay? Became a shriner and all that shit. It's nice, get some stuff on the dome, but you still feel the longing for more. Same thing when I went through all the initiations in Ifa and Santeria and Palo. Still felt like I was missing something. And what I was missing was that spiritual sovereignty, liberty, and spiritual freedom that none of those paths give you, because there's all this structure and organization. Structure is okay when it's personal. We all have to have certain level of structure as long as we identify through our own parameters that we set for ourselves, not what somebody else does for us, because most of us get to a point in those systems where we become iblis or rebellious, which is another mask of Lucifer. We exercise our iblis or rebellious nature because we're like, man, fuck this. I got what I got out of this. I can't do this bullshit no more. I'm sure we've all gotten to that point when we look back in the past at certain spiritual systems. But what a master does or a god or goddess does, now we can go back and we can master those systems, change them and adjust them to fit our spiritual needs as opposed to them mastering us. and dictating to us what we can and cannot do. So that's why I did this video today. You could still work with the 7 African powers as long as you're utilizing it from your true God self, not doing it because such and such said you need to do this. Nah, I don't do that shit no more. All right. What else we got? Greetings, everyone. Yeah, shout out to Bridget. I know you're dealing with that battle with that monster called cancer. Just keep fighting it. All right. You enjoy all the time that you got. I think I already answered that. I know, yeah, I answered that question earlier. Obsidian Sun. Yes, you can self-initiate into any current. And all an initiation is doing is getting you fully invested in the energy of that current. All right. Now, in traditional systems, it is to an extent a rite of passage, to an extent, but the overall goal of an initiation is the mysteries of that energy or current for you to get acclimated and familiar with. So once you open yourself up and make yourself receptive to that current or energy, you start to see growth spiritually with that particular path. And that's not just for this, that's for all paths. As I said earlier, if you came on late, I do here, obviously not recently with everything that's going on with COVID, but over the years I have done simple initiation rituals into the 7 African powers for people. There's a ritual and a ceremony that I do down here. But then again, like I do with every other thing, and anybody that's worked with me over the years, I show you how to proceed forward after that and start doing it for yourself. So if you feel like you need a personal ritual to go through, yes, that can be provided. But again, understanding that you're going to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you. And we need to get out of those frame of mindsets, okay? All right, so what else we got here? Let's get through the quickity quick. Angel says, don't all primitive people have the same spiritual needs and do transactualization? A lot of the archetypes have similarity symbols, nature, etc., patakis or parables. Yes, and I know we had the Black Flame 11, we had a long, and it just randomly happened. We had a long build on Wednesday night. And for those who are in the Northeast region, we do have a group that we get together once a month, and we started ritualistic work in New York, obviously on hold now with the COVID. We had a ritual plan for March, then we moved it to June because of everything that was going on. So it's on hold right now. But we have a group, again, shout out to the Black Flame 11. I haven't been mentioning it much lately because everything on pause. Hold on. Let me reset this. Hold on 1 second. But yeah, if you are in the Northeast area and you want to get connected with an occult left-hand path group, inbox Brother Angel Figueroa. He is the scribe of that order or group. He handles all the administrative stuff as far as contact, how you can connect with the group, and be part of that class. Don't email me because I'm just going to refer you to Brother Angel. And Angel, if you're still in here, maybe you could put in your email. But again, like everything else, it's work. It's not a social club. If you ain't going to participate, don't come in. All right. Hold on 1 second. That's the Black Flame 11. Just give me 1 sec. Hold on. There we go. Post that. All right. So yeah, get with Brother Angel and he can link you in. And again, when you contact him, he's going to send you an email with some questions in a form. That's because we do screen. We don't just want anybody coming amongst us. That's why. And if you take your shit personal, then just don't waste your time. We just want to make sure you're here for the right reasons. So just keep that in mind. All right. All right, then we also got, and what's up, buddy? All right, let me see any other questions here. I'm just trying to breeze through, see if there's anything of importance. I might have to skip some stuff. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to shut down the Instagram. I'm not going to restart it. Hold on. Instagram is bugging. All right. What else we got? We got anything else here? Blade of Astarth says, did I skip something? All right. He says, I'll never understand for the life of me why they still wrap themselves in the trappings of it. That's why I never vibe with some of those paths. I left Catholicism and I don't want no more of it. And yes, enough said. What else we got? Bridget, I don't know if you're asking me my astrological sign or were you answering that to somebody else? My astrological is Gemini. I do have a placement in Cancer. Also, my mother's a Cancer. Or was, I should say. I guess maybe you were talking to somebody else. Maybe you were talking to Seth and True. See, he said Gemini, so maybe you were talking to him. Not sure. Okay, Jessa Lee, your crown is Elegua. Okay. Do you know what the hell? Do you know who rules your body? Were you told that? Oh, it's still uploading. It's crazy. That question was to Jessa Lee. Man, I don't know what's wrong. Shit ain't posting. Anyway, I ain't worried about it. What else we got here? I have to find that info that this is Bridget that attribute gods to the astrological signs that came up for Aries and Oshun. Yeah, I've heard that in astrology, Oshun with Cancer. So there is a connection there, Libra with Yemaya. But yeah, it just helps you, again, understand the energies more. So if you're using it in that, fine. I get it. What else we got? Where we at? I skipped some shit here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I got my spot back. I'm sorry. Bridget says, Elegua is a trickster. I've heard, and he will put your shortcomings on display for you. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. He will test you as far as whatever weaknesses you got, challenges you're avoiding. Elegua will bring them to the surface just like Lucifer does, and you will have to master them. That's a fact. All right? Lola Sene or Sign, hopefully I didn't butcher your name, brother. Does mixing pantheons risk muddying up the family relationships and hierarchies from each? No. Well, let me say this. Mixing the wrong energies can, like for an example, if you're working with this pantheon, know their place. Like I wouldn't incorporate a ritual with completely different pantheons. I believe when you're working with a current, that you should be focused, your work should be centered around that current. So in that sense, yeah, you don't want to mix them. Now, as far as different pantheons, if you do group, and I've talked about this many times over the years, for an example, if you connected Kali with Oshun, very similar. You just want to make sure the energies are similar and in sequence. I wouldn't mix energies that are adverse to each other, for sure. That's just rule of thumb because that can create a lot of internal conflicts within the magician, within you. So yes, you should be focused on the current that you're working on, and everything should be centered around or in line with that current. I don't recognize, like I wouldn't take, for an example, I wouldn't be doing a ritual for Azazel and connecting it with the 7 African powers. I mean, that's just common sense. So in that light, yes. In that light of intellect, not artificial light, yes. But that's a very good question. And even when you set up your altars, I'm always in favor with keeping the currents in line. Like I don't like to mix them. Again, you can do whatever you want, but I think it keeps things focused and it keeps the energy in line, because in essence, that's what we're working with, energy. And we need to understand how we're working with that energy. All right. All right. I'm going to have to skip some of these. Yeah, Baron Samdi's no joke either. We'll get into that another time. No problem, Duma. Michael Thompson. You can work with Paulo, and yes, well, let me say this, okay? And I won't stay on this too long. I've done videos. Go back to a video I did about a year and some change ago. There's a couple of videos I've done on Palo Mante and Palo Mayembe. You need to understand the difference between both. First of all, if you go through the traditional aspect, you have to be marked to get scratched in Palo, which is the traditional way to get initiated. You need to find that out first if you go a traditional route. Let's get that out of the way. It's sometimes recommended that you don't get scratched or initiated in Palo, because those forces or energy might not be productive for your spiritual growth. So if you're looking to do it from a traditional aspect, you must be marked by a Palo spirit that says you need to be scratched and go through the full initiation. That's usually done or found out going before a Nagapod of a Polero through Divination, or you might be at a gathering that's open for anybody in a Polero house, and one of the Polero spirits comes down or mounts or possesses one of their initiates, and they will usually bring you to the center of the floor or the room, and they will draw the sigils of that particular Palo spirit on your chest or your back, which will be a confirmation that you are marked to get scratched in Palo. So traditionally, it's not something you can just say, I want to get scratched. You need to find out if it's for you. And any good Polero will be honest and do it the right way, unless it's somebody who's trying to rip you off and take you for your money. That's a whole nother story. Self-initiation, yes, the same way I just discussed with the 7 African powers. There are methodologies you can work and connect with this energy and do rituals that connect you into the pantheon of those spirits. So it's no different from what I discussed earlier in this video. And again, not just with Palo or the 7 African powers. You could do that with any pantheon, all right? So it just depends. All right, what else we got? I don't think Palo out the gate, though, is a good system for somebody to start with. I think you should get educated on it, at least to some degree. First and foremost, if you don't like working with blood, it's definitely not your path. It's a very, if I'm talking now, if you go through the traditional aspect, if you don't like being blindfolded and going through initiatic style rituals, and if you don't like kind of hazing ceremonies like in fraternities or lodges, you're not going to like Palo. It puts you through a serious test of trials and tribulations, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is why I don't think I wouldn't suggest going to it right out the gate. I would, if it's an interest on a traditional level, I would get linked in with a good Polero, get familiar, or a Polera, a male or a female, and I would get educated on it to some degree. I don't think it's something I would just dive into unknowingly. All right, what else we got? All right, I got to speed through this, people. Running out of time here. Yeah. All right, what else we got? All right, so people hitting Doom up. Cool. All right, Angel put his email in there for those down with the Black Flame 11 that want to get in. You're in the Northeast somewhere, tri-state area or somewhere in that area, and you're looking to connect. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philly, hit them up. We have some good classes once a month on Wednesday night, and we're still doing our preparing for our ritual work up there, which will continue at some point. So that's the Black Flame 11 is for you people up there in the Northeast. All right, what else we got? Happy birthday, belated, to Edward Adam. Happy born day. All right, Angel. Okay, I think we're at the end here. All right, let me just throw this out there before we depart. Again, check out my Patreon page. You will not be disappointed. Get in on it. Private classes, rituals, For tier 3, 4, and 5 members only. If you're a tier 5 member and you're in my current mentorship program, at some point you will excel into the Order of the Red Dragon, where you will now be looking through the eye of Leviathan. I will get into that. And for those in the Red Dragon mentorship program, the Red Magus program, which takes you into the Order of the Red Dragon, and there will be classes only for those people too that have committed their time, effort, and energy into that order. We got a lot of shit going on. There's something for everybody. Get involved on some level. If you're looking to grow your spiritual path, find your niche. I'm trying to offer several different alternatives to get you involved on some level. Find something that works for you. Patreon.com/Beniti. Check it out. Only sign up for 5 Red Magus mentorship if you're serious. Don't waste my time. It's work, it's time, it's energy. For those that are in it now, you guys are doing tremendous up until this point. I see the sincerity. You're working hard. I'm not going to throw names out there, but you know who you are. And I see the desire, the fire. And that's what motivates me when I see somebody come in eager with that desire and that fire to learn. That's what it's about. If you ain't about doing work, don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Patreon.com/Beniti. If you want to hit me up for a spiritual reading, which could either be a reading through the Lucifer Oracle, working with the archdemons, the 12 princes of hell, and the Goetia, or a Santa Muerte Holy Death reading, working with my lovely mother, as I call her, and the spirits of the dead. Specify which one when you reach out to me for either or. If you want a spiritual consultation, specify. Just give me the days and times you're available and also the time zone you live in so we can make an appointment work for us. Journey of the Black Adept Conference 3 is still on and popping. No changes yet. We still plan on holding it live and in person. Unless something changes, we do have a backup plan to do it, to live stream it one way or the other, but that's last resort. We'll make a decision closer to that as we get closer to the months of October. Don't miss out on that event. Great time we had the last 2 years. This will be our 3rd time doing it. It's an annual event I do every year to try to link up with everybody around the country that's here on the channel. Things have changed drastically since then. We've grown, and so hopefully we can continue that. All right. That's pretty much what I got for everybody. Don't forget also Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, Primordial Chaos on Facebook. Shout out to everybody on Facebook, Instagram that supports all the platforms. Do not forget the Hip Hop and Occult show next Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. That's going to be on the Primordial Chaos Facebook page. All these new artists that have reached out to me that you hear me playing their music, I will be bringing them on the show. Don't miss it. We're going to have Brother Maine on there. We're going to have Brother Montu Mercury, the brother that you heard me play today, Teddy Cash. A lot of up-and-coming new artists that are putting out good music. That's the objective. And then we're going to be talking about, obviously, the topic will be that night, next Friday night, the most impactful MCs of the 1980s. We'll be playing live music. DJ Eddie Machete will be in the building, actually doing some demonstrations, playing some live music himself. Hopefully he got all his equipment set up. I got to reach out to him. I know he was trying to get all that organized. I'll be playing live music right here from the app. So I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be kind of a fun but educational show. So hopefully you guys can make it next Friday night. I'll put the links in throughout the week, but remember, that's on Primordial Chaos Facebook page, not here on Instagram. I mean, not here on YouTube. All right. Other than that, I appreciate everybody. Appreciate the support. Infernal blessings to all, and you guys be safe and enjoy the rest of your week.